Realism with the title How IMF Defined under Realism Lens. But before we jump to our topics, let me and my team introduce ourselves. My name is Mutiana Shakirana.
My name is Nabila Putri Delvian.
My name is Muhammad Hasbi Hazazi Rambe.
My name is Naufal Leandiasa.
So, if you're hearing about the International Monetary Fund, you will think about some things like more related to Marxism. Why is that? Because you know that International Monetary Funds is about finance, it's about money, that you will think that's more related to Marxism. But here's the things. Perspective or lens is some things that we use or tools to see some things. So it's not really like if it's about finance, you have to use it as Marxism. It's not like that. So we have like our eyeglasses to see some things. And without any further ado, let's skip to our explanation. So, before we deep dive into our topic today, let me explain more about the IMF. International Monetary Fund is an international organization that focuses in global finances and international trade. With their main function is about supporting the economic policies and monetary cooperations. And related to this main function, they have three critical missions. The first one is furthering the monetary cooperations. The second one is encouraging the expansion of trade and economic growth. And the last one is discouraging the policy that could harm prosperity. And to fulfill this mission, the IMF member countries work collaboratively with each other and international body. So if you see in my explanations that maybe you still cannot see, where's the realism in this explanation? So let's jump to the next section, who controls the IMF. What I mean by these four things could control the IMF. Let me explain it one by one. The first one is voting power. So the voting power we could get if we give the financial distribution to the fund. So if we more contribute to the fund, we get more voting power. The second one is Big Five control decision. The Big Five is USA, Japan, Germany, France, and the last one is UK. So these five states could control the decision in these organizations. The third one is USA has a veto power. Even though there's not really, they said USA has a veto power, but USA has more than 15% vote in this organization. And for making a decision, we need 85% super majority to agree with this decision. But if USA do not agree with this decision, so means this decision cannot be implemented. And the last one is quota base. What is quota base? So it means more contribute to the international organization, means International Monetary Funds. They have more vote, more power, and more influences. And four things that I explained show you how could this international organization only be a tool or instrument for big state or big power state. So the four things that I explained before show you how the international organization be a tool for big state to show and maximize their power.
Okay, so now I'm gonna explain about the governance structures in IMF. The first one is there are board of governors, executive board, 5 appointment directors, and the last is 19 elected directors. So the first one is the board of governors. This is the highest decision-making body of the IMF. It consisting of 1 governors from each of the 191 members country. Typically, the finance ministry or the central bank governance. They meet annually and hold ultimate authority on major decisions. Next is the executive board. This is the actual operational decision-making body of the IMF. This board is responsible for the operational and decision-making of the IMF It consisting of 24 executive directors who conduct the fund's business on a full-time basis. The executive board is divided by two. The first one is the 5 appointed directors. These executive directors is appointed automatically by the countries who have the largest quota, which is the USA, Japan, Germany, the UK, and France. This gives these countries a direct influence in decision making. The last one is the 19 elected directors. These are the remaining executive directors who are elected by a group member of other countries. Due to limited voting power individually, many countries form constituencies to elect executive directors to represent their collective interests.
In the International Monetary Fund, the distribution of power is shaped by member shares quota. This quota determines the financial contributions, the borrowing limits, and the voting power. In IMF, each of members' quota is largely determined the voting power and their relative influence and the influence of each individual members of IMF in decision making. So which means the greater and the larger economy that the states had will determine their power, and the greater influence will be in IMF. So as an example, we can see from US and the majority of European countries. Those countries have a really great influence within the IMF, with the US have more above than 15% of quotas in IMF itself. So, since the IMF need at least 85% of the voting from its member, so the IMF, so the USA will have the veto power to change and block any IMF resolutions. In international monetary funds, the distribution of power is shaped by member shares quota, which determines the financial contributions, borrowing limits, and the voting power. In IMF, each member quota is largely determines their influence and relatively. One of the example of US veto is in IMF is in 2010, US has vetoed the IMF resolutions regarding about to double IMF financial resources. So why did USA oppose this resolution? It's because the USA didn't want to risk their influence within the IMF and risk their financial conditions. And then, since US has an above 15% of the quota or voting power within the IMF itself, it can block and it can oppose the majority decisions within the IMF itself. So, because of this veto power, the USA has has delayed the IMF capability to maintain and managing the global financial crisis in the world, and frustrating the other countries which is seek a more fair voting power. So, if we are asking about which states has a domination within the IMF, so the answer will be the United States of America, since it has more than 15% of the voting power within the IMF, which allow the United States of America has a veto power to block or change any resolutions in the IMF.
Okay, so the next one, we're going to talk about how it is respected in a few international organizations.
The first one is Realism views international organizations as instruments of powerful states rather than independent actors. This means realism sees organizations like the IMF as tools used by powerful countries to achieve their goals rather than independent entities making decisions on their own. The second one is the key actors in the IMF are states, especially those with large quotas. In realism views, countries with more power and influence, like those with large quota in the IMF, call the shots and drive decisions making. Third one is their interests revolve around maintaining global economic stability in a way that protects their national priorities. Powerful states use the IMF to ensure global economic stability, but in a way that prioritizes their own national interests and priorities. The fourth one, the IMF is therefore seen as a tool that allows great power to shape global economic governance. The IMF is meant for powerful countries to influence global economic rules and policies, as well as promote their policies aligned with their economic philosophy. Powerful states use the IMF to spread their economic ideas and policies to other countries. The next one is prevent systemic crises that would threaten their interests. By shaping global economic governance, powerful states aim to prevent economic crises that could harm their own interests. And the last one is the international organization does not act autonomously. Instead, they institutionalize the power of relation of its dominant member.
So, that's all our explanations about how IMF defined under realism lens.
If you have any discussions or questions, don't forget to comment down below.
Push the like button and share to your family at home.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Thanks for watching! Bye-bye!